A short story by Paul McCann, Bobo and the Early Snow. Outside in the street, the carpet of winter had come. Bobo looked out through the window and thought how heavy the first snowfall was. He also thought how good it was because his garden looked the same as everybody else's. What to do today, he thought. He sipped on a cup of tea and then he decided he would go and have a bit of fun with Charlie. He dressed quickly and made his way around to Charlie's house. It was about 6 a.m, and as Bobo walked up the street to Charlie's house, he looked back and saw that he had left the first footprints in the snow in the street. It was a nice feeling to have made the first impression of life on winter's white blanket. When he arrived at Charlie's house, he stood underneath Charlie's bedroom window. He called out a few times, but got no reply. He called a little louder, waking the people next door up before he rolled a few snowballs and threw them up at Charlie's window pane. Charlie eventually opened the window to see what was going on. "Come on, Charlie, I want to show you something," said Bobo, standing on the pavement below. Upstairs, Charlie yawned and he said, What time is it? "It's time we're on our way, Charlie. Hurry up. Get some clothes on, before it's too late," Bobo replied. "Too late for what?" Charlie asked. "Too late for a date with the pretty few girls." Charlie closed the window and was out the front door almost immediately. There he stood, half dazed, at 6:30, half dressed and still half asleep, and with a half puzzled look on his face. "Where are we going, Bobo?" he said. "Nowhere with you and those pink fluffy slippers, Charlie. For goodness sake, go and put some decent shoes on your feet." "Oh, okay, Bobo," Charlie said, making a fist and stretching his arms up in the air. When he returned, Bobo said, "Follow me." Bobo walked down the street so fast that Charlie had trouble keeping up with him. Finally, Bobo stopped outside the corner shop and started to climb up the drain pipe. Then he scrambled up to the roof. Charlie followed and was soon up there with Bobo looking down on the street below. Charlie looked at Bobo for a few moments and then he said, "Is this what you want to show me, Bobo?" Bobo shook the snow from his hat and he said, "Everybody will soon be on their way to the factory." Charlie wasn't amused. "What are you on about, Bobo?" "Listen, Charlie, when was the last time you saw snow this thick?" Bobo asked. Charlie had to think for a minute or two, or a minute or three. "This thick? I don't think I've ever seen it this thick." "Exactly," Bobo said. A few moments passed. Charlie was still none the wiser. He looked at Bobo, who was watching the street below. "Bobo, I know the snow's thick, but what are we going to do? What's it all about? We're up here at the crack of dawn on the roof of the corner shop." "It's time. Wake up time, man." "What do you mean, wake up time?" "It's wake up time. Look, the snow is thick and we're going to have some fun. Look, here they come, Charlie. Let's go." Bobo began to push all the snow over to the edge of the roof. Charlie was helping him, but still hadn't got a clue what he was doing. "Wait for my signal, Charlie," Bobo said. The first group of factory workers passed by with caps and overcoats. Then down the street they came. A group of young girls, arm in arm on their way to work for their very first time. Bobo could hardly keep a straight face with the anticipation of what was about to happen. He waited until the girls were directly underneath the roof of the shop, and then he gave the signal. He started pushing an avalanche of snow over the edge, and with Charlie's help they had managed to push a good dump of snow over the unsuspecting passers-by who were screaming and crying. The young girls were soaked to the skin and had to return home for a change of clothes. Bobo and Charlie buckled over in fits of laughter and waited for their next victims to pass by. That was a laugh, Bobo. You must have sat up all night thinking of that one. Shh, Charlie, here they come. Look, keep quiet. There's only enough snow left on the roof for maybe one more good dump, Charlie. So let's get all that snow now over onto the edge. A few moments later, they were ready as the next group of young girls went by in the line of fire. On Bobo's signal, they were all dumped with another fair pile of snow. The girls were furious, and all the fun and mayhem, Bobo hadn't seen the police van that had been sitting right opposite the shop, watching the carry-on. Somebody must have informed them. 3 big pillars got out of the police car and were making their way across to the corner shop. But Bobo spotted them, and he told Charlie to make a run for it. By the time Charlie had understood what was going on, Bobo had slid down the drain pipe and was halfway home, but poor Charlie was so surprised to see the police climb up the drain pipe that he said, sorry officers, but there's no more snow left. You'll have to come back tomorrow. Bobo watched from the distance as Charlie was escorted to the police van and taken away. He felt guilty and didn't know what to do. He went home and had some breakfast, and he thought about how he could help Charlie. After he changed his clothes, he went to the phone box in the town and he rang the police. Hello, could I speak with the officer in charge? There was a long silence. This is the officer in charge. What can I do for you? Came the reply. I'm the youth worker at Bosco's Boxing, and I was wondering if you could tell me what happened to the young man who got arrested this morning for dumping snow on the heads of some passers-by. You mean the girls on the way to work? That young fool jumped out of the back of the police van, and we haven't seen him since. Do you know who he was? The police officer said, No, sir, I can't tell you that. I was hoping that you might have known who he was. We haven't found him yet, but when we do, we're going to give him a severe punishing. Well, I am the social worker at the boxing club. Mark my words, I will certainly be having a word with him too. Thank you for your help. Bobo wondered what he could do now. Maybe he could go and search and sweep over the town to see was Charlie around. What did you say your name was? Said the police officer. I didn't, but people call me Coco. Coco? Yes, Coco. Bobo hung up the phone. Just as he did, he looked outside the window. He thought he'd seen what looked like Charlie hiding behind a hedge. Charlie went out to have a look. Sure enough, Charlie was down on his hunkers, looking all around. Bobo kept very quietly and walked up the path and gave him a fair kick up the backside. What did you do that for? That'll teach you to dump snow on the wee girls. But you told me to, Bobo. I told you to do nothing. I appreciate that, Bobo, but you got me in trouble with the police. Don't say another word. Come on, quick. I'll get you home for breakfast. Charlie followed Bobo all the way back down the street. Charlie was hiding behind coal trucks. Anytime he seemed what resembled a police officer or a car, he looked like he was a hardened criminal. He blackened his face with coal from the coal truck. Bobo took his hand and he pulled him across the road. Slowly creeping up behind him, he gave him another kick in the backside. Ah! Charlie let one scream go and spun around. He put up his two fists and then he dropped them again as Bobo just looked him in the eye. I told the police officer I'd give you a good punch when I found you. Well, I told him I'd do the same, so just keep your mouth down. Charlie spat on the ground. Bobo spat in Charlie's foot. Bobo, what's going on? 1 minute we're like the best of friends, and the next thing you're kicking me in the backside and you're going to punch me in the nose. All heroes get a kick in the arse. Don't you know that, Charlie? Bobo said. Like, sure I know that. I was just testing, just to see if you knew that. Now tell me, what happened after the police found you on the rooftop of the corner shop, Charlie? Well, it was like this. The first policeman, he climbed up on the roof right away, and I went into combat mode. What mode? Combat. You know, I'm trained, Charlie said with a big, great gusto in his voice. Combat mode, Charlie? Tell me more. I never wasted any time, Bobo. I struck first and knocked the big policeman to the ground, and when he tried to get up, I pinned him down. With me 2 arms and me foot. And then after the 2 other policemen rushed me... What? Pinned you down? And the other 2 policemen rushed you? That's right. Will you let me finish, Bobo? Charlie continued. I pinned one with my left foot in his jugular, and I was very balanced and I was ready for the other 2. I pivoted around with my left and a round house sweep and brought the 2 policemen down to the ground. Gee, that's something I have to tell all the boys about that, Charlie, Bobo said. That's not all, Bobo. I gave those cops something to remember me by. You should have seen me move. After they got up on their feet, I swung an uppercut to the jaw of the biggest policeman with a shimmy, then a shimmy and a shimmy to the left and the right, and I threw a wicked combination and 3 cops ran back to their van, screaming like scolded cats. Scolded cats? Yeah, scolded cats. Tell you what, they'll not come back looking for me again. Well, that's not what I heard, Charlie, said Bobo. What do you mean, Bobo? Never mind. I'm still proud of you, Charlie, jumping out of the police van and making a run for freedom. I never thought you had it in you, said Bobo. Who told you I jumped out? Charlie said. It was on the midday news, Charlie, Bobo said. You're kidding, aren't you, Bobo? Said Charlie. Yeah, Charlie, come on. Let's go and I'll buy you a drink. Come on. You're on. They both made their way to the local and they sat all night with Charlie telling all the boys about his scuffle with the law. The end.